Kadosh Boker Or Masechet Bava Kamma daf Amud Aleph 56a1. Yesterday we were speaking about a braita in the name of Rabbi Yoshua that he says there are four different things that if you do so, you are going to be patur midinei adam and chayav midinei shamayim. Okay, so you're going to be patur midinei adam, which means that betting cannot extract money from you, but you will be chayav bedine shamayim. Okay, well, that means you're obligated mitzad shamayim, meaning mitzad Hashem, you're chayav. Just betting can't really do anything to you, right? And what exactly are those four things? So we said aporetz geder. If somebody's going to break, right? We're talking about now if somebody's going to come and he's going to break the fence of his friend. Okay. Another one is we're talking about, and then in front of the animal goes out and damages. Another one was kofef komato, which means that he bends the tvua, right, the grains in front of the fire of his friend. So basically he's causing his friends' things to be damaged. Number three is socher edeh sheker la'id, he gets edeh sheker to come and to testify, right? So if that's also going to be another one, okay? And then the last one is going to be ayodea edut lechavero v'eno me'id lo, which means you know testimony about your friend, but you do not testify, right, for him. So the Gemara asks, what we're going to analyze these four cases. So the Gemara said, and this is where we finished yesterday, if somebody's going to come and he's going to break the fence of his friend in front of the animal, what's the case? If it was a good wall, so you should also be chayav b'dinei adam. Why? Because at the end of the day, he has to pay also the wall. Not only because of the damage the animal came and did, so you should be chayav b'dinei shamayim on the, but what about the wall? He damaged the wall. The wall's a good wall. But rather, we answered, and this is how we finished off yesterday, bekotel ra'ua, a bad wall. The wall was bad. And therefore, since it doesn't have any type of a shovi whatsoever, it doesn't have any value whatsoever, so therefore you're not going to be chayav on the wall, okay? So therefore, it's only just that damage that the animal did, okay? And this is where we're starting today. Amar Mor says, Nun Bava Kamma daf 56a on the top, first line. Amar Mor, hakofef komato shel chavero bifnei adleka. This was the second case where a person was going to be patur midinei adam chayav b'dinei shamayim. Hakofef komato shel chavero bifnei adleka. If somebody is going to be bending over, right? He's going to bend over the tbuah, which is standing in front of the fire of his friend. So he's going to be patur midinei adam and chayav b'dinei shamayim. What's the case? If you're going to tell me that anyway, the fire is going to get to it through a ruach mitsuya, through a common wind. So he says b'dinei adam nam michayev. So therefore, it should also be chayav b'dinei adam. What does that mean? If you're going to tell me that he's doing so and the fire is going to get it, that means even without the bending of it, the fire would not have gone it. So obviously, it should be chayav. Ela dematya beruach sheno mitsuya. But rather, be'emet, it could still get to the how do you call these stalks, but only with the ruach she'ena mitzuya. And therefore, when you come and you bend it over, you're going to be chayav. But right when you're doing so, right, and it's still not a ruach she'ena mitzuya, so therefore he comes and he says, so therefore you're only going to be chayav b'dinei shamayim and not b'dinei adam, because since b'dinei adam it wouldn't have got there because it was only with a common wind, nothing would have happened. So therefore you're only going to be chayav, right, b'dinei shamayim and not b'dinei adam. Ravashi amar. Ravashi comes and he says, tamun itman. The braita is talking about where there was tamun. What does that mean exactly, tamun? So he says that he covered the grains and everything, right? So therefore, b'dinei adam, he's not going to be chayav because he didn't do any damage whatsoever. And therefore, mitzad b'dinei shamayim, he's going to be chayav. Mishum deshavya tamun be'esh, because b'dinei shamayim, there is such a thing as tamun be'esh, right? Which means that's why he says that a person will actually be chayav in such a case, but only b'dinei shamayim. Because b'dinei adam, if you remember, tamun, anything which is hidden, there's no chayav of esh. Why? Because when I came and I burnt your barn house, right, or your dog house, I didn't expect there to be a kasefet of I don't know what of all your money there. So therefore, you can't obligate me on something, right, that you would have not, bichlal would have understood. Samar more says, Hasocher ede sheker. The third case, you come and you paid witnesses, right, which are false witnesses, to come and to testify. Hechidani, what's the case? If you're going to tell me now that he did it on his own, I don't understand. Imagine right now you're paying false witnesses, and you would have been chayav to pay money. Now, because of your false witnesses, you don't have to pay money. So why is it only chayav dinei shamayim? Even with dinei adam, you owe the guy money. You tried to become patur because you got false witnesses. So what does it mean you're going to be patur midinei adam? That doesn't make sense. So he says, no, ela lechavre, to his friend. Meaning, at the end of the day, I paid false witnesses for my friend. So therefore, I'm not going to have midinei adam because I didn't obligate anything nothing to do with money. But the fact that I came and I did it for my friend in order to take out money, so therefore I'm chayav b'dinei shamayim. Even though it could be there was, the money came out falsely and all that, but I'm chayav only b'dinei shamayim. Okay, fine. The last case.
Maybe the friend gonna give him money after.
Fine, but then the friend is chayav. But then the friend is chayav money, not me. Again, we're only mityaches to you. You yourself, what are you chayav? You cannot be chayav money if you didn't do anything. Here, it's not mean that what you wanted to do, they do to you. No, there's nothing to do with it. Here, you paid false witnesses, so you are chayav b'dinei shamayim. Why? Because you caused, whether it's a loss or whatever it is, to another guy. But b'dinei adam, I can't obligate you anything, right? I could obligate the other guy to pay back at the end because if it was false witnesses, and now I could obligate him to pay, but it has nothing to do with me, right? I just did something which is immoral or not immoral. There's another word, unethical. You understand? So therefore, I'm chayav b'dinei shamayim. Okay.
So the divs of Yomim are only chayav.
The last case is hayudea edut lachavero ve'eno me'id lo. What happens if you know edut of your friends, but you do not testify? So you know edut of your friend, but you don't testify. So says the Gemara, b'maya skina. What are we dealing with exactly? Ilema b'veitre. If you're going to tell me right now that we're dealing with beitre, what does it mean now, beitre? We're talking about two different, right, witnesses. Yeah. So he comes and he says, pshita, obviously, right? Obviously, you're going to be chayav b'dinei shamayim doraita, right? Because if you already know, right, that means basically if you could come and you could testify with a group of two witnesses, and now because you didn't do that, he couldn't do anything. So you're chayav, you're already sur the Torah. The Bible says, right, in Vayikra, not the Varim, Vayikra. Yeah, you with me?
ויקרא, אבל כנגד, נו,
מה כן?
תגיד את הפסוק.
אם לא יגיד, ונשא עוונו.
נו. בדברים.
זה לא רשום. אם לא יגיד, ונשא עוונו. He comes, he says, אם לא יגיד, ונשא עוונו.
תהפוך בהכל רשום.
בכל התורה.
נכון.
אם לא יגיד, ונשא עוונו. You're listening. אל תשא עוון. He says, אם לא יגיד. You're not going to tell over the story. You're carrying this in. What does that mean exactly? He comes and he says, so therefore, obviously, you're going to be chayav b'dinei shamayim. You're over on the Torah. So the Gemara says, ela bechad. We're talking about in a case where one person could have testified. And therefore, you're the only witness. So says the Gemara, okay, fine. So now it makes sense. You're the only witness, right? And if you're going to be the only witness, you cannot take out money. Yeah? You could make him swear, but you cannot take out money. So therefore, because of that, you're only like a grama. So therefore, it's only b'dinei shamayim and not b'dinei adam. Okay, fine. Says the Gemara, right? The next, the two leka. You're going to tell me that there's no other cases whatsoever? Vayika, you have another case. What are the other cases? It gives you the siman in brackets, so we're not going to read it, but there you have the siman. Haoseh besam, right? Ushliach, chaveron, nishbar. So the first case, haoseh, right? We made a mnemonic, so in order to remember. So the first case, Aika, haoseh melacha b'mei chatat. If you do a melacha with mei chatat, remember mei chatat is waters of paraduma, that you came and you did a melacha with them, or parat chatat, or with the paraduma itself, right? And therefore, by doing a melacha with it, you disqualified it. So patur midinei adam, chayav b'dinei shamayim. You're going to be patur midinei adam, chayav b'dinei shamayim. Yeah. So it comes out, right, that you're going to be patur midinei adam, chayav b'dinei shamayim. Yeah, makes sense. At the end of the day, it makes sense. So why? Because you disqualified the waters, but it's a hezek shelo nikar. It's not recognizable. Meaning, when you look at the water, you don't see any difference. So since it's not recognized, right, the difference, so therefore that's why it's not going to help you. Okay, fine. So you have the first case, right? Second case, if you put poison in front of your animal's friend, friend's animal. Yeah, I was just testing you. Patur. Okay. Patur midinei adam. Yeah. Yeah, he says patur midinei adam vechayav b'dinei shamayim. Says you're patur midinei adam and chayav b'dinei shamayim. Number 3, v'aika hasholeach Rabbi al chadeshot v'ketan. If you send, right, whether it's going to be your animal. I think this is animal, correct? This is animal or this is the fire? This is probably, huh?
יש פה כמו מרכזייה, אני מכיר את זה בתור של
He
טלפון
said,
מרכזייה.
let me see over here, number 17.
חל שלום שלום. חל שלום שלום.
Yeah, he comes and he says, yeah, you're sending your fire. Yeah, you're sending the fire. So he says over here, you're sending your fire in the hand of a cheresh shota v'katan. You're going to be patur b'dinei adam v'chayav b'dinei shamayim. Next case, amavit chavero. If I scare you. Yeah, I scare you. Oh!
מבעיל.
No, hamavait.
מתזכרת.
Yeah,
זה מבעיל, לא?
mavait. No. להבהיל is בעלה.
מבעית זה בעלה בביתה.
מבעית is מפחיד את חברו. בלשון חז"ל, no, עם תו. מבעית. Yeah, so he says, פטור מדיני אדם וחייב בדיני שמיים. והאיקה, another one, נשברה, this was the last one, right? נשברה כדור ברשות הרבים ולא סילקה. Imagine one of your utensils break in the רשות הרבים, and you don't move it. נפלה גמלו ולא מידה, or your gamal fell, you didn't pick it up. Rabbi Meir says you're going to be chayav ezekah. Chachamim say patur midinei adam chayav b'dinei shamayim. So look at all these cases where you have the same law. Patur midinei adam chayav b'dinei shamayim. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay. Answers the Gemara. You're right. Mi'ai katuva. There's a lot of cases. Meaning it's not only just 4 cases that is patur midinei adam chayav b'dinei. There's much more. But these 4 of Rabbi Yoshua, we needed to learn. Why? I would have thought to say that Dinei Shamayim nami lo lechayev. That in Dinei Shamayim, right? Anyway, you shouldn't obligate them. Yeah, which means that even in Dinei Shamayim, it should be patur. Kamash manah. You understand what it's saying? Meaning like this. In the other cases that we mentioned, it makes sense to be mechayev b'nei shamayim. It makes sense. Saying you come, you scared somebody. So, okay, fine. So you're going to tell me now that you can't extract money and you can't. Okay, fine. But you scared the living daylights out of the guy. You understand? Or you come and you what's it called? You damage, your thing broke and you just leave it there. Like a boar with shud rabim. You just leave it there. Yeah? Things like that. Right? But or you come and you give a fire in the head of cheresh shota v'katan. Like obviously you're going to be chayav dinei shamayim. But these cases, these 4 cases that we mentioned before in the Braita, you would say that you're not going to be chayav at all. Yeah, in mi'ai katuva. Why? Because I would have thought to say dinei shamayim also you're not chayav. Kamash you're going to be. So why? He says that poretzke to be b'fnei chavero. I would have thought to say, given the lemisrekai, since anyway you were going to break the wall, right? Mavid, what did you do already? So b'dinei shamayim nami lo chayav. So you shouldn't be chayav even b'dinei shamayim, which means. Because at the end of the day, right, when you came, it was already a wall that was how do you call this? Kotel Ruah. You remember? It was a bad wall. So anyway, you had to break down the wall. Right? So Kamash Malan comes, you're chayav dinei shamayim. Or kofef komato shel chavero nami. I would have thought to say Elmaleh, right? I'm going to know that a ruach she'ena mitzuyah is going to come, a tornado, whatever it is. Dinei shamayim nami lo chayav. Kamash Malan comes to teach you, you're going to be chayav. Even according to Ravashi that we're talking about tamun, I would have thought to say, Anna kasuye kisete niale. I covered it. So therefore, what happened was that it shouldn't come and get, destroyed quickly. So Dinesh Shamayim wouldn't be chayav. You're going to be chayav. Hasocher.
How do you fix the Shamayim?
How do you fix Dinesh Shamayim? By doing teshuvah or paying back, by appeasing the person. But he cannot extract money from you. Appeasing the person.
Adam would be money only.
Yes. Bnei Adam is money only, and B'dinei Shamayim, right? He says it could be also if he's going to be muchalicha and doing teshuvah. He says over here, כלומר, הוא חייב בעונשי שמיים על גרימת הפסד ממון לחברו במזיד עד שישלם, ויש מפרשים חייב דיני שמיים לגבי גרמה בנזיקין, שאכן הוא חייב לשלם, אלא בית דין לא כופין על כך. They don't obligate them. Now he comes and he says that there's a whole question about exactly how you. So, for example, right? You come and you start speaking to him until finally you come and you tell him, right? You want to, right? You want to make him, thing. It all depends on circumstances. Okay, fine. The third case, right? Sorry, this was the fourth one. He comes and he says, the third one. I would have thought to say, Leima, why don't we say Divrei Rabbi, Divrei Tanim, Divrei Mishumin? Meaning like this, I come and I pay you to testify falsely. Afterwards, I could be able to get out of the punishment completely. Why? I said, listen, the rabbi, the master tells you something, and the guy tells you something. Who do you listen to? The master. So why am I chayav? It's true, I told you to do it. Why should I do that? By the way, they say the exact same thing to do with the police. The police are never allowed you to tell you something that goes against the law. So if they tell you to go against the law, since they're not allowed to, you're not allowed to listen to them. You're not allowed to listen to them. Right? Why? Because divrei harav, divrei talmid, divrei mishomim. This is so. So kamashmalan, I would have thought to say that means you should be patur legamre. Kamashmalan comes teach you that you're still going to be chayav dinei shamayim. No, sometimes it happens. You come, sometimes. No, anything. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes it happens that I come and I tell somebody, why did you do this? I know, he told me to do so. What do I care about what he told you to do? You're not a Ben Adam. So he thinks he's going to be... באדום, אסור לך.
מה זה אסור לך?
אסור לך.
הוא אומר לך, תעבור, מה לא קורה לך הרבה
זה משהו אחר. אם עכשיו יש בעיה ברמזור, כן, ברמזור, זה משהו אחר, אבל אסור לך, the cop...
אף אחד לא יבוא לך סתם
Okay, that's what I'm saying. The cop cannot tell you to go against the law. Okay? ויודע עדות לחברו ואינו מעין לו נמי. מהו דתיים? I would have thought to say, מיימר דכי הווה מסידה להווה מודה. What I would have thought to say, well, he's going to be actually מודה. דימה משתבע, I would have thought to say, he's going to be נשמע לשקר. ודיני שמיים, נאמין לא חייב, he shouldn't be בחייב even דיני שמיים. Kamashmalan comes to teach you that in such a case, you're still going to be chayav b'dinei shamayim, which means that in these cases, you can't, sometimes people, they try to get out of it completely. לא היה כוונה, לא היה זה וזה, ואני פטור לגמרי, חייב בדיני שמיים. There's no way of getting out of it. You understand? You can get out of it, דיני אדם, you're right. דיני אדם, nobody will shoot you. But דיני שמיים is still there. Okay?
It's a little bit worse.
Huh? Well, it depends how you look at it. It's not 100% worse. Fine. Okay? It's not really worse because when it's Dinei Adam, you have both. You have Dinei Shamayim and Dinei Adam. When it's Dinei Shamayim, you don't have Dinei Adam, so it's less. It's like, what's worse, Karet or Mita B'dei Shamayim or Arba Mito Bedi? So what's the answer? Arba Mito Bedi. Arba Mito Bedi is worse than Karet or Mita B'dei Shamayim. So that's the same thing. Fine. Next, says the Gemara. We're by the two dots. Nifretza balayla or partsua listim. What happens right now if it broke? Whether it was during the nighttime or listim came and they broke it. Sa'amar Rabba comes and he says, Vehu shechatra. We're talking about the behemah came and it started digging from underneath the wall. Avalo chatra mai, but if it didn't come and it didn't dig, so what's halacha? Chayav hechi dami. What's the case? If you're going to tell me now we're talking about a kotel bari, ki lo chatra mai chayav. So if you didn't come and you didn't start digging, why are you going to be chayav? What do you want then? Ela, but rather bekotel ra'uha. we're talking about a kotel rawa. So ki chatra, then is a bad wall. So ki chatra, so if it starts digging underneath, amai patur, why is it going to be patur? Tchilato b'pshia v'sofo be'ones. Remember, the beginning was negligent. Why was it negligent? It was a kotel rawa, bad wall. Afterwards, he was honest because the animal came and started digging, and then, but at the end of the day, it was tchilato b'pshia v'sofo be'ones. Tchilato b'pshia v'sofo be'ones. Right? Why is he going to be patur? So Hani Chalamandamar, this is good according to the Mandamar that says Tchilato b'Shia v'Sofo be'ones is going to be patur. But according to the Mandamar, Tchilato b'Shia v'Sofo be'ones is going to be chayav. Ma'ikal lemema. What are you going to say then? Ela, but rather matnitin bekotel bari. Our Mishnah is talking about a kotel bari, a good wall. Va'afilu lo chatran, even if the animal didn't come and start digging. V'chi itmar de Rabba. Now, when is Rabba talking about? A seifa itmar. He's talking about the seifa of the Mishnah, which means hinicha bachama. If you left the animal in the sun, or masra, or you give it over to Chereshot v'ktav yatzav izika and it goes out and damages, you're going to be chayav. Amar Rabba, Rabba says v'afilu chatra, even if it digs underneath. Why? Lo mibayechet v'lo chatra. Not only in the case where it doesn't dig underneath and it just actually pushed it over. The entire thing is pshia. Why? Why are you leaving the animal in the sun? You think that you leave the animal in the sun, it's going to stay there, right? The animal's suffering. But even if he digs underneath, also it's going to be the same thing. I would have thought to say it's considered the entire thing is still considered pshia, right? My tama, what's the reasoning? He says, the fact that you left your animal in the chama. It's going to do anything possible to get out. Meaning, you come and you leave the animal in the sun, there's nothing but to do. The animal's going to get out. He'll do anything. You want time? Okay. 2 dots. Okay. Oziel listim. If the listim come and they take out the animal, so he said that the listim are going to be chayavim. Nun bet. Says the Gemara 56b, Pshita, obviously. I'm saying if the listim took the animal out, so now the listim are the owners. So obviously they're going to be chayav. So he says, Kevan dafkua, right? Since they took it out, kamela b'shutai lecholmine. So now it's reshut for everything. So answers the Gemara, lotzicha, what are we talking about? The kamula be'apa. That we're talking about, that it took it out. It says over here, we're talking about that they didn't take it out with mashicha. They just stood in front of it and they blocked it from going from different ways. So therefore, since it couldn't go to any other direction, but rather to come and to start eating, so therefore that means they didn't do any kinyan. They didn't actually do any type of a form of kinyan. Because if they did a kinyan, now it's theirs. But they didn't do a kinyan. They just stood in front of it and just made sure that they had until the guy had to eat. Just like Rabbi says the name of Rav. If you're ma'amid, the animal of your friend and kamat chaviro, you're going to be chayav. Ma'amid pshita, obviously. If you're ma'amid, you're putting him right by the place where to eat. Obviously, you're going to be chayav. You stood in front of it, and therefore you're going to be chayav. So therefore, since you block all other exits, you're going to be chayav because you basically forced it to eat from here. So Elmaleh Abai Rav Yosef says about Rav Yosef, Hikisha Martalam. Right? Did you say that the Rav is mityaches a case of where he's hikish the be'ema, right? B'makel, listim nami dikishua. Meaning, just like you came and you took with a stick or whatever it is, so same thing here. The fact that they come and they start directing the animal with this makel, it should already be enough. And therefore, in such a case, right? That's why he comes and he says that's the acquiring of it. That's like the kinyan meshicha, and therefore they're going to be chayav on everything. So now it makes sense why it's not the pshita anymore. Okay, fine. Next, 2 dots. Okay, misara leroeh. If you give it over to the shepherd, so now the shepherd, right, becomes obligated in all the different things. So Amri, they said, tachtav de man. What does it mean? It goes tachtav, meaning that the shepherd goes tachtav. Tachtav of who? So he says, ilema tachtav de baal bema. If you're going to tell me that it goes instead of the animal's owner, so what? No. Listen. So he says that we already learned it. Meaning, even whatever that he is, right? Sorry. Thank you. Whatever that he is, at the end of the day, he's instead of the owners. Ella, but rather, you're right. Tachtav the shomer, meaning he comes in front instead of the shomer, because the Mishnah is talking about the Bala Be'ema gave it over to a shomer, and the shomer gave it over to a roeh. So therefore, since the owner gave it to a shomer, and the shomer gave it to a shepherd, so the shepherd goes instead of the shomer, and therefore the first shomer is going to be patur, and the roeh is the one that's going to be chayav, for whatever the case is, right? Right? So says the Gemara, 1 second. The shomer kama ipata legamu. Are you going to tell me that the first shomer is completely patur? Lema tav tufta de Rabba. This is against Rabba. The Amar Rabba. Shomer shemasal shomer chayav. Imagine right now you give me something to watch over. I'm busy now, so I come and say, you take it, watch it over. So he says, I'm still chayav. Shomer shemasal shomer chayav. So sitting here, if I'm a shomer on your animal, and I gave it over, right? It doesn't matter what it was. It doesn't matter what type of a shomer. Doesn't matter. You're going to shomer chinam. He said it, all the four. Mesaro shomer chinam, shoel, nose sachar, vesocher. It doesn't matter which one. So he's coming and he's asking, right? If right now you gave it to me, and now I'm passing along the ball, I'm still chayav. So that's a question against Rava. So Elmaleh Rava tells you, no. My mesaro leroeh, lebarzileh. When it says over here that he gave it over to a shepherd, he's giving it over to the talmid, right, of the roeh. Meaning, the first shomer was a roeh mumche. He was a professional shepherd. He gave it over to his apprentice, to his talmid. It's normal to do that. Meaning, they give it to you, and you give it to your talmidim. Many times this happens in security. 100%. So therefore, in such a case, right? So therefore, since you know that it's normal like that, you can't say that the roeh is not ne'eman, and therefore the roeh is going to be patur with the shvuah, right? That it was be'ones, and then he's going to be patur. Ikadam, there are those that say, midiktani, from the fact that it said misara roeh, that he gave it over to the shepherd. Veloktani, he didn't say misara le'acher, he gave it to somebody else. Shmamina, right? So obviously you learn from your mind. What does that mean? So masar roeh lebarzile de orchedor. It's normal to give it to your apprentice. Aval le'acher, but if you do give it to somebody else, no. The first shomer is going to be chayav. And this is a proof to Rava. That Rava says shomer shebasar is going to be chayav. Amri, they said no, it's not true. Maybe it's normal. Meaning like this. We have the Ika de Amri, one more time. We had the case. The case was shomer shenatan shomer. Doesn't matter what the first shomer was, whether he was a shomer chinam, shomer sachar, socher, or a shoel, doesn't matter. He comes and he gives it over to somebody else. So the Gemara said the first one is patur, second one is going to be chayav. Says the Gemara, that's a tiyufta on Rava, because Rava comes and he says, shomer is going to be chayav. And so the Gemara, no. We're talking about that you give it to your student. And since you give it to your student, it's normal to do that. But if you would have given it to Acher, right, Bemet, you would have been, right? So he comes and he says, so therefore, he comes and he says, what does that mean? He says the Shomer Rishon gives it over to the apprentice, and therefore Rava is going to be moded, he's going to be patur. But it's normal. According to the Ika De'amne, we wanted to actually bring a proof to Rava and say this is a proof that you have, that it's only because it's your apprentice that you're allowed to do so. But if you give it to Acher, you're going to be chayav. And says, well, that's not a proof. Why? Maybe a deal or kamash, meaning that we were talking about what's normal. The normal thing is that you're not going to give it to somebody else. You're going to give it to your apprentice. Well, you're going to give it to somebody else. Doesn't make sense. Okay? Fine. Itmar, 2 dots. Shomer Aveda. If you're a shomer on an Aveda, which means you found an Aveda, and now you're shomer on the Aveda, you have to take it to your house to make sure until you're going to give it back to somebody. So shomer Aveda, Rabba Amar is considered like a shomer chinam. And therefore, you're going to be chayav only if it's pshia, if you're negligent. Rabbi Yosef says you're like a shomer sachar, and therefore you're going to be chayav even if it was no negligence. That's a machloke between Rabba and Rabbi Yosef. Now let's try to understand. Rabba comes and he says you're like a shomer chinam, dami. What hana do you have? Why in the world, right? Why are you not a shomer chinam? At the end of the day, you took it for free. You're watching over it until the guy is going to come and pick it up. So shomer chinam makes sense. Rabbi Yosef says you're like a shomer sachar. When you come and you just took this lost property and now you're going to return it, you in essence, you're patur now of coming and giving, you're patur now of coming and giving anani tzedakah, because you're busy doing a mitzvah. With that benefit that you're not giving tzedakah, that in itself is enough that you now, it's a hana that you consider a shomer sarcha. That is the shita of Rabbi. So some people explain Rabbi, Rabbi Yosef, sorry, that was the shita of Rabbi Yosef.
Why just to that? Any mitzvah.
You're right, but any mitzvah, there's no real benefit. Here you're getting a benefit. You're not giving tzedakah, right? You're not giving tzedakah. So that's meaning there's a benefit of money. It's a financial benefit. Yeah. So now he comes and says, some people explain it that in Yosef says like shomer sachar, kevan rachmana shivde bal korche, the other opinion, he won't say that it's not because of a financial thing, just that the fact that the Torah subjugated you and tell you that you're chayav to return a lost object, so that's already ki'ilu, it's a sochar, that you're taking sachar, which means it could be a spiritual sachar, but it's a sachar. Okay, and then we have a siman, which we're going to come and start asking upon these things about, Rav Yosef, Rabbi, you're a person that's, what are you chayav exactly? Okay, fine, we'll be in touch about it.